When his secretary Bonnie and I fell off a cliff at the same time, my husband Damon's first reaction was to hold the secretary, cover her eyes and let her away. I called out for help to him, but he just gave me a cold glance. Call an ambulance yourself, it's too dangerous here, I'll take her away first. Then he left me struggling alone. 2 days later, when I got home from the hospital, I found a pair of lace panties that didn't belong to me beside my pillow. I sat on the bed and calmly dialed the phone. Mom and Dad, I thought it through. I'll go back and take over the company in a few days. My parents on the other end of the line were happy and chatted with me for a few more words. Before hanging up, Damon opened the door and walked in from outside, carrying a takeout meal in his hand. He smiled when he saw me and placed the porridge in front of me. I bought you some porridge. Who are you talking to on the phone? I was silent for a moment and then told the truth. My parents. Damon nodded perfunctory, but his eyes were always on the phone in his hand, and he occasionally let out a pleased chuckle. I knew that he never cared about what I said, and for the first time I didn't keep chattering to find a topic, but let the atmosphere turn quiet. I casually picked a movie. When I was drowsy from watching it, Damon's attention finally fell on me. He frowned slightly and looked at the bowl of porridge that one hadn't touched at all. Elena, you're injured and it's a time when you need to recuperate. Why don't you have the porridge? I raised my eyebrows and didn't say anything to spoil the mood. I picked up the porridge bowl and took a perfunctory sips of the unnutritious plain porridge. Welcome to Love Story. 2 days ago, Damon said he would take me hiking. I thought I had finally waited for the day when our relationship would warm up again. Unexpectedly, Damon's secretary Bonnie was also tagging along. When I accidentally slipped and fell off a low cliff, Damon carried Bonnie and left the dangerous place, and I was sent to the hospital by kind-hearted people. I had some minor scrapes on my body, but the most serious thing was that I was 2 months pregnant, and I lost the baby. And during the 2 days I was in the hospital, Damon was nowhere to be found. When I was lost and thought a call came in on Damon's phone, he instinctively glanced at me, then stood up and went to the living room. I could still hear the echo of his gentle voice within earshot. I had never experienced such tenderness from him before. I logged into my secondary account. At moments this secondary account only had Damon and Bonnie as friends, and both of them had posted a new status. They were pictures of the sunset in different neighborhoods. Their hands formed half of a heart in different directions, and when the two photos were put together they formed a complete heart. The captions were also very similar. The sunset should be shared with the person you love the most. I switched back to my primary account and entered the moments, but I only saw Bonnie's status. Damon had already blocked me. After I liked Bonnie's status, I casually put down my phone. I found a comfortable position to lie down, and then a loud slamming of the door came from the doorway. Damon had left again. After a while he sent me a message. I'm going to buy some food. What do you want to eat? I didn't reply. Half an hour later he sent me a picture. It was a box fried rice with eggs. Next to the fried rice with eggs was a large lunchbox, and there was a sticky note pasted on it. Dinner bought for the smartest and most beautiful secretary in the world. I finally couldn't help but reply. Damon, I've been off carbohydrates for 2 years. We've been together for 3 years. Don't you know that? There was no reply for a long time, until he came home. He put a plate of fried rice with eggs in front of me and said, with a cold face, "It's just a meal. Why are you being so fussy? I've already bought it, eat it or not." Right in front of him, I threw the fried rice with eggs into the trash can. His face turned ashen. Before he could say anything, I threw that pair of black lace panties at his face. "Are you going to deliver food to Bonnie? Give this back to her." When Damon saw what it was, a look of embarrassment flashed across his face. "Bonnie left this here when she took a shower the other day." His explanation was feeble, and I didn't have the heart to listen. Damon shut up, came over to tuck in the quilt for me and left with the lunchbox. Damon didn't come home all night. I drove to the company by myself. Just as I sat at my workstation and was about to start working, the colleague next door dragged his chair over and sat beside me to gossip. "Elena, do you know that Damon and Bonnie are together?" Before I could react, my colleague started chattering away. "Someone saw Damon and Bonnie getting out of the same car today. When they reached the company entrance, Bonnie Sprained her ankle. Oh, Damon, who was walking behind her, was really worried. Damon picked Bonnie up around the waist and carried her to his office. They still haven't come out, yet I nodded in a daze. And I didn't hear a single word of what my colleague said next. I'd been with Damon for 3 years and very few people knew about our relationship, because Damon didn't want to be talked about regarding office romance, but when it came to Bonnie, all his bottom lines and rules had changed. I lowered my eyes and lay on my workstation to calm down my emotions, but my phone rang again. You at work? Buy a bottle of medicine and bring it up. Bonnie sprained her ankle. Before I say anything, he hung up the phone. Then I relayed to another secretary in Damon's office, who knew about our relationship, that Damon needed medicine. The rest of the day passed in peace, and ends by the time I finished the last bit of work at hand. The clock had already pointed to 9 o'clock. There was no one left on this floor. The sound of footsteps came from the stairway. I turned around and looked, and I found myself facing Damon, who was holding a coat. He draped the coat over me and frowned tightly. It's so late and you're still not going home. I'm here to pick you up. I couldn't help but feel a bit dazed. In the past 3 years, no matter how bad the weather was, Damon had never come to pick me up. Sometimes I lose my temper, crying and demanding that he come to pick me up after work, but Damon would just look annoyed. Elena, you're an adult. What can't you do by yourself? You have to trouble others. Aren't you being annoying? After a moment of silence, Damon surged again. Have you finished your work? If so, let's go home. Okay. I got up slowly and followed Damon out of the company. When I got in the car, I opened the door of the front passenger seat, but Damon stopped me. Sit in the back. I suddenly remembered a witch at moments post by Bonnie, showing off that only she could sit in her boyfriend's front passenger seat. I understood immediately and opened the door of the back seat and got in. Halfway through the drive, his phone rang. Damon pointed to the phone place next to me. Answer it for me. I answered the call and put it on speaker phone, and Bonnie's crying voice came through. Damon, I had a nightmare. It was so scary. Can you come and stay with me? I'm so scared sleeping alone. Damon's eyes flickered and finally he parked the car by the roadside. I got out of the car on my own initiative, and a rare look of guilt flashed in Damon's eyes. Go home first. I'll see what's wrong with Bonnie, and I'll be back early. Before I could reply, he left in a hurry. I laughed at myself and hailed a taxi to leave. When I got home, I stuffed all the important things into my suitcase and left some unimportant things here, not planning to take them anymore. Where are you going? Damon pushed open the door and frowned slightly. When he saw my luggage, I was a bit surprised. I didn't expect him to come home today, so I just made up an excuse. Casually, my department asked me to go on a business trip. Damon nodded, sat on the bed and lowered his eyes, seemingly thinking about something, with an unmistakable look of annoyance between his brows. I didn't ask him considerately as I usually did, but took my pajamas and went to take a shower. When I came out, Damon was no longer in the room. There was only a pink sticky note pasted on the headboard. Damon said that he couldn't rest assured that Bonnie was alone in the city, so he was going to stay with her for one night, and take me to the restaurant I had been wanting to go to for a long time tomorrow. I raised my eyebrows, crumpled the sticky note into a ball and threw it into the trash can. The next day I went to the company as usual. The difference was that this time I was going to handle the resignation procedures. Damon was nowhere to be seen and didn't go to the company for several days in a row. When I remembered, I logged into my secondary account, and Damon's reach at moments was being updated in real time every day. In the first few days it was pictures of the seaside, and in the following days, it was pictures of the grassland. During the week I was resigning, he had been accompanying Bonnie to travel around. I thought I could leave without seeing him again before I left, but just as I was about to go to the airport, Damon sent me a message. Elena, I'm at the airport, come and pick me up. I was silent for a while. Well, anyway, I was going to the airport too. I drove one of Damon's cars from the garage and rushed to the airport. When I got to the airport, I checked in my luggage first, and then drove the car to the pickup area to wait for Damon. Before long, Damon was holding Bonnie's hand and the two of them walked out chatting and laughing. They separated as if trying to deceive themselves when they saw me. A hint of provocation flashed in Bonnie's eyes and she greeted me with a smile. It's really hard work, Sister Elena, coming all the way to pick us up, and thank you, Damon, for accompanying me to play for a week. I shook my head and smiled politely. Damon doted on Bonnie and rubbed her head, saying that it wasn't troublesome at all. It seemed that he had been in a pretty good mood during this past week. The two of them interacted with each other in front of me for a while, before they turned their attention to me. Damon reached out his hand to me and I handed him the car keys. Bonnie was quick-eyed and quick-handed. She opened the front passenger seat and sat down. Damon put all of their luggage and various gifts they had bought during the trip into the car, the trunk in the back seat were all stuffed full. Bonnie grinned but feigned regret. Why is it all filled up? Then how will Sister Elena go back? The weather seemed to want to set off my wretched situation. Torrential rain accompanied by thunder fell instantly. Only a trace of hesitation flashed across Damon's face, but he still sat in the driver's seat and took out his phone to transfer some money to me. Elena, take a taxi back by yourself. I'll take Bonnie to have a meal first. She hasn't eaten all day. There was still a smile on my face, as obedient as when there were no problems in our relationship, always following his words. After watching the car gradually drive away, I turned cold and turned around to go back to the airport. I refunded the money that Damon had transferred to me. Just before boarding the plane, I received a message from Damon. He asked me why I had returned the money to him, and why I hadn't arrived home yet. I didn't reply. The next moment the phone rang again. I answered the call. There was a lot of noise on Damon's side, and it seemed that he was in a very chaotic place. Elena, I just saw the home surveillance. Why haven't you arrived home yet? How long has it been? I found my seat and sat down. You're not even going home. What am I going back for? Damon's voice became a bit steadier and he gently comforted me. I'll be back soon. What do you want to eat? I'll bring it for you. At this time, the flight attendant on the plane began to urge us to turn off our phones. Many people on the other end of the phone were egging Damon on, asking him to kiss Bonnie. Damon gave a fierce shout of "Shut up," and there was instant silence. I heard his voice start to tremble. Elena, where are you going? I let out a soft laugh. To a place where you're not around. After saying that, I hung up the phone. When the plane landed and I turned on my phone had been bombarded with calls. I just pretended not to see them and added Damon's phone number to the blacklist. When I reached the exit, my parents were standing in front of the car waiting for me. I carried my suitcase and walked over to hug my parents. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the car filled with flowers. My father patted me on the back, opened the car door. There was a huge bouquet of pink roses placed on the front passenger seat. The card on the roses read, "Welcome the princess home." My eyes suddenly felt hot, and the emotions that I had been holding back for a long time suddenly burst out. At that moment, I leaned into my parents' arms and burst into tears. Dad, Mom, I'm not being stubborn anymore. I'm not leaving. It's the best to be by your side. My mother gently patted my shoulder and tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. Don't cry, baby. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. My father snorted softly, as if hating that I hadn't lived up to expectations. You're not that stupid after all. You know to come home when you've been wronged. After calming down my emotions, I looked at the car full of flowers and was at a loss for words. Then how are we going to get home? The car was piled high with flowers and there was no way 3 people could fit in it at this time. The driver drove another car over and there was a look of great pity in his eyes. As he looked at me, the driver talked to my father. Sure enough, you shouldn't date a poor guy. Look at how wronged our young lady is. She even forgot that our family can drive 2 cars out at the same time. The originally sad mood disappeared in an instant because of this sentence. Damon was at least a newly wealthy person who had built his fortune from scratch. Although he couldn't compare with our social circle, wealthy families, he was still a real newly wealthy person. In our social circle, he was actually called a poor guy. I felt a bit like laughing. After getting home, I lay on the bed feeling more relaxed both physically and mentally than ever before. I crossed my legs and swung them back and forth while replying to my former colleagues, who were asking about my resignation. The gossipy girl who sat at the workstation next to mine sent me more than a dozen voice messages that were each 60 seconds long. Looking at the length of these voice messages, there was probably some huge piece of shocking news again. I clicked on the first one. Elena, do you know Bonnie and Damon aren't actually a couple? Damon has a girlfriend. Yesterday at the company dinner party when we were playing Truth or Dare and tried to encourage the two of them to kiss, Damon was on the phone with someone. Suddenly he roared at us. I've never seen Damon that angry before. I heard that his girlfriend resigned and ran away. He squatted in the private room and drank a lot of wine, and made a lot of phone calls, but the other party didn't answer. Bonnie wanted to go up and comfort Damon, but Damon actually pushed her away. As she spoke, there was a hint of Shad and Freud in my colleague's voice. Bonnie posts photos and videos of going on trips with the boss, and her weep moments every day. She turns out to be the other woman. She might have been afraid that I wouldn't believe it, so she sent me the surveillance video of the private room. I moved my finger and clicked to open it. The light in the private room in the video was dim, but it was still possible to clearly see each person's face. At first Damon and Bonnie were feeding each other wine. When the bottle for Truth or Dare landed on Bonnie, she shilly glanced at Damon and then chose the dare. In such an occasion everyone thought they were a couple, so it was only natural to match them up, but Damon was on the phone with me at that time and didn't notice it for a while. After everyone started egging them on, Damon suddenly stood up and drawed. Then after saying a couple of words, he smashed his phone hard against the wall. The phone shattered into pieces, and the people in the private room were also very frightened. Then Damon called over the waiter, stuffed a wad of money from his pocket into the waiter's hand, and asked him to buy a new phone. Then he started sitting in the corner, drinking. Bonnie wanted to put her arm around his and ask him what had happened. At the moment she touched Damon, he coldly pushed her away. Bonnie ran out crying and Damon drank for a while longer and then left, as well. The video ended abruptly, but even if I hadn't watched it, I knew that Damon must have gone after Bonnie. He cared so much about Bonnie. Even if he was angry, he wouldn't just ignore her. Perhaps after tonight, the two of them would be affectionate and get together as a matter of course. I clicked on my colleague's voice message and continued playing it. After she had gloated for a while, she finally asked me, Elena, why did you resign? After a while she stammered and asked me, you can't be Damon's that girlfriend, can you? I smiled without any real feeling, and imitated her stuttering manner to reply, yeah, I am. His that girlfriend who resigned and ran away, after resting at home for 3 days. My father urged me to go to the company. I had been with Damon for 3 years and I had done my best in our relationship, but in terms of my career I was still grateful to him. He built the company from scratch and made it big. I joined his company right after graduating. Under his guidance I gradually mastered my work, got promoted and received salary increases. He had helped me a lot. As a result, I often thought of him when adapting to my current job. It was a bit annoying, so I told my father that I wanted to take on the task of negotiating a cooperation with the Stefan Group, and my father agreed with a smile. When doing the background check, the strange phone call came in. I answered it. Before I could even say hello, Damon's voice came through. Elena, I'm downstairs of your company. I hung up the phone and added this phone number to the blacklist as well, but sooner, call from the security room came to me. They said that Damon was lingering at the company gate and refused to leave, specifically asking for me to come out. I pinched my forehead but still closed my computer and went downstairs to deal with this trouble. Damon was holding a bouquet of flowers. When he saw me, he strode over. Before I had time to react, he knelt down on one knee and took out a diamond ring and held it in front of me. Elena, I know I made you unhappy, but I love you. Can you give me a chance to spend my whole life making up for my mistakes? People were coming and going in the hall. Who wouldn't want to watch such a spectacle of a public proposal? Most of the people who had some free time stopped to watch this scene. I frowned in annoyance. Damon, what are you up to? I really want to marry you. I love you. I pursed my lips, hesitating whether to embarrass him in public. Just as I was about to speak, I was pulled into a warm embrace before I could look up. A gentle and mellow voice reached my ears. Isn't it a bit impolite for this gentleman to propose to my girlfriend in public? I raised my eyes slightly and only saw Stefan's clear jawline. After a moment of silence, I didn't deny it either. Damon was stunned. He widened his eyes, stood up and raised his hand to pull me. What nonsense are you talking? Elena is my girlfriend. We've been in a relationship for 3 years and are preparing to get married. Damon's touch made me genuinely feel disgusted. I stuffed my hands entirely into Stefan's arms and loudly denied it. I have no intention of marrying you. We've already broken up. Where are the security guards? Throw him out. For me, as soon as the words fell, the security guards hiding nearby rushed forward. 2 of them controlled the resisting Damon, and the other 2 carried him out. Only after Damon's figure disappeared did I break free from Stefan's embrace. I coughed softly to relieve the embarrassment, smiled at the man whom I hadn't seen for many years, and quickly invited him to my office. The assistant brought up 2 cups of tea. I asked in a polite and official tone, "What brings General Manager Stefan to the Elena Group?" Stefan squinted his eyes slightly, leaned lousily on the sofa, and looked at me. "I'm here to communicate with my business partner about the upcoming cooperation project, and by the way, to meet my blind date." I widened my eyes, stretched out my finger, pointed at him, and then at myself. "We had a blind date." Stefan imitated me and widened his eyes and then casually dropped another bombshell. "It's not just a blind date. We're also going to be the partners in an arranged marriage in the future." As soon as these words came out, the tea that I had just swallowed to calm my nerves got stuck in my throat, making me cough several times. I knew that I would definitely go on a blind date when I came back, but I didn't expect that the blind date partner would be Stefan, nor did I expect that our parents would decide on a business marriage. After Stefan had admired my embarrassed expression enough, he led the conversation to work. I took a moment to recover and introduce the plan I had prepared to him. When he left, he looked at me inferently. "Miss Elena, I hope you can sort out your relationship with your ex-boyfriend before we get married." I nodded repeatedly. "Don't worry." I looked at Stefan's departing back inside, then, thinking of his face, I suddenly felt that this business marriage was quite good, except for the lack of affection. After accepting this fact, I decided to go home. However, as soon as I walked out the door, I met Damon's eyes. He had been waiting at the company gate. He stood up, his movements a bit awkward. "Elena, you're off work." I nodded. He came up and took my hand again. "Why did you leave?" "Without saying a word. And you even lied to me that you had a new boyfriend." Damon's attitude was rarely humble. I frowned in disgust and shook him off. "Just say what you want to say, don't touch me." Damon straightened up and a look of certainty suddenly appeared on his face. "Elena, did you lie to me that you had a boyfriend because you were angry about me and Bonnie? There's really nothing between us. I just treat her as a younger sister." I really couldn't understand Damon's train of thought now. I had made it clear that we had broken up. Why was he still here, and why did he appear in a manner as if he knew me very well, and thought that I was just being unreasonable? Could it be that even though I had been blocking him these days, he still thought that I was just angry? People from the company were gradually leaving. I didn't want to become a joke in others' eyes again, so I had to take Damon away from the company gate and found a random coffee shop. Damon sat down in the coffee shop and thought he was being considerate by ordering a cup of cappuccino. For me, I stopped the waiter and changed the cappuccino to a latte. Damon paused. "Why did you change it to a latte? Don't you like cappuccino the most?" I closed my eyes tightly, suppressed the urge to slap him, and said coldly, "It's your little secretary who likes cappuccino, not me." Upon hearing this, Damon looked stunned. He showed an expression as if he was meeting me for the first time, then reached out and held my hand to apologize. "I'm sorry I've neglected to care for you before. I'll change, Elena. I'll take good care of you in the future. Will you come home with me?" I shook him off mercilessly. "Damon, do you understand at all? We've already broken up. We've been broken up for many days." Damon suddenly froze for a long time, then suddenly stood up and shouted at me, "What breakup? Elena, you can't unilaterally break up with me when I haven't done anything wrong." I don't agree. His anger flared up out of nowhere, and I also developed a rebellious mentality because of what he said. The 2 of us confronted each other in front of everyone in the coffee shop. "Damon, haven't you done anything wrong? How dare you say such a thing? You went on a month-long trip with Bonnie and disappeared without a word. When Bonnie was sick and had a nightmare, you rushed to her side. Regardless of everything, is that not wrong? Damon looked righteously indignant. Bonnie is a girl who is struggling alone in a big city. What's wrong with me helping her more? Elena, don't be too narrow-minded, but I can understand you. You're willing to talk to me now because you're jealous. Your jealousy means that you still love me. I can promise you that when we get home, I will definitely treat you well and stop paying attention to Bonnie. I was really so angry that I laughed. No matter what I said to him now, he wouldn't listen. He just thought that I was throwing a tantrum. I took a sip of coffee, took out my phone and dialed Stefan's number. I asked in front of Damon, "Stefan, when are we going to have the engagement banquet?" Stefan chuckled on the other end of the phone. "Are you so eager to marry me? Probably next month. How about that?" "Okay." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Damon, who was sitting opposite me, had turned livid. He gritted his teeth and said, "Elena, what do you mean?" I shrugged. "It means that I'm getting married. I want you to face the reality." But Damon just lowered his eyes. After a while, he forced a smile. "Elena, I've already proposed to you. You don't need to force me to marry you in this way. As long as you agree, we can get the marriage certificate tomorrow." In response to him, I threw the half cup of latte that I hadn't finished drinking at him. I picked up my bag and was about to leave. Damon took out a tissue, wiped his face, randomly stood up and grabbed my wrist. Seeing my firm attitude, there was a rare hint of pleading in his tone. "Elena, please don't go. Will you come home with me? We've been together for 3 years, and I really love you." I turned around and looked at him coldly. "Damon, do you love me? Or do you love being with 2 women? We've been together for 3 years. You said you love me every day, but after Bonnie appeared, your eyes and your heart started to favor her. If you could have broken up with me openly and been with Bonnie, I might have thought more highly of you, but you say you treat Bonnie as a younger sister while doing things that lovers do, and now you're here pestering me. You really make me feel a bit disgusted." Damon's face turned pale and the hand holding my wrist began to tremble. He repeated the feeble words, "I really just treat Bonnie as a younger sister." I sneered and didn't say anything. If treating someone as a younger sister means being available at any time, chatting during the day and sleeping with her at night, then probably everyone in the world would be his enemy. Damon's hand slowly loose and he sat there dejectedly. I thought he would give up pestering me, but just as I stepped out of the coffee shop, he chased after me again. He blocked my way, stretched out 3 fingers, and swore to the sky. "Elena, I love you, and I will definitely prove it to you. Trust me, just wait for me," I said calmly. "Damon, you also swore like this before, saying that you would love me for a lifetime, but in the end." Damon didn't refute, but his determined gaze remained unchanged. I walked past him with a cold face, and he finally didn't chase after me anymore. I let out a sigh of relief, walked to the company gate, and was about to go to the basement to drive my car, but I saw Stefan at the company gate. I felt a bit overwhelmed. I had just dealt with one person and now another one came. I really wanted to go home and lie in bed like a corpse. Stefan came over and looked at me, asking softly, "Where have you been?" I rolled my eyes, dealing with my troublesome ex-boyfriend. "What are you doing here?" Stefan's face was hard to read. After a while he put on a smile. "I'm here to be the annoying current boyfriend who picks you up and discusses the engagement matters with our parents." I looked up in surprise. "Discussing the marriage matters?" Stefan nodded seriously and pretended to take out his phone, searched for an electronic almanac, pointed at the date half a month later and said, "I asked someone to check. There's no auspicious day a month later. The nearest auspicious day is half a month later. Is that okay?" The corners of my mouth twitched, and I couldn't say no. After all, I was the one who brought up the engagement first, and the engagement date could only be arranged according to Stefan's convenience, so I nodded and agreed, then got into Stefan's car and went to my home with him. When I entered the house, I found that Stefan's parents had already arrived, gifts piled up in nearly half of the living room. The parents of the 2 families had already discussed and decided everything. Seeing Stefan and me coming back together, they just smiled and nodded, saying that we were a good match. We sat and chatted for a while, had dinner and finalized the Engagement date. Thus this marriage was set in stone. After Stefan's family left, my parents called my name, seemingly wanting to say something to me. I could only put on a pleading expression. I had dealt with a large amount of work that day, had to deal with Damon and Stefan, and finally had to maintain a warm attitude and have dinner with Stefan's family. Even an Iron Man couldn't stand having their minds spinning at such a high speed. Now all I wanted to do was lie in bed and sleep. My parents had to smile and let me go upstairs to rest. In the following days I finally lived a life of going to and from work on time, working overtime occasionally and going on dates with Stefan occasionally, without any other troublesome matters, until one day my gossipy former colleague sent me another video. It was a video of a hall in Damon's company. Bonnie was desperately grabbing Damon's sleeve in the company hall, questioning him why he wanted to fire her. Damon answered her in his usual gentle tone, "Bonnie, Elena and I had a quarrel because of you. If I want to make up with her, I can only let you leave my side, but it doesn't matter. I've already recommended your resume to another company, and you can work there." Bonnie's eyes were misty with tears, and she looked incredulous. "But you two have already broken up. Damon, don't you like me the most? You've done so much for me, and we too." Bonnie's words were mercilessly interrupted by Damon. "There's nothing between us. I only treat you as a younger sister." After saying that, Damon walked away indifferently, leaving Bonnie alone in the hall wiping her tears. I closed the video and the familiar 60-second voice message came again. "Elena, look at Damon. He's so ridiculous. Why does he only cherish after losing? Bonnie likes him wholeheartedly, and he's really heartless." I gently typed a line of words to reply to her. "It's not that he knows how to cherish, only after losing, nor does he like Bonnie. He just enjoys the feeling of being fought over and chased by two women. In this process, if either of the women gives up on him, he will make gestures of desperately pleading. He only loves the feeling of being chased." She replied with him, "I understand," and then went to work. I also received a text message from Stefan asking me out for dinner. I packed up my files and went downstairs. As soon as I walked out of the door, I heard a terrified shout of "Be careful." Then everything spun around, and I was pushed to the ground. A pile of unknown liquid was splashed onto the position where I had originally stood, making a hissing sound. It was sulfuric acid. I quickly pushed Stefan away and frantically groped to check his body. "Are you okay? Were you splashed?" Stefan hugged me in his arms and gently patted my back to comfort me. It's okay. I wasn't splashed." I checked him carefully and finally felt relieved when I confirmed that he was unharmed. The culprit who splashed the sulfuric acid was also controlled by the company's security guards. I walked up and was confronted with a face full of hatred. I raised my hand and slapped Bonnie hard. That it wasn't enough to relieve my anger, I slapped her again with the back of my hand. "Bonnie, you really don't want to live anymore." Bonnie's eyes were wild. Why? Why does Damon only love you? Why did he fire me because of you? I love him so much." I ignored her madness and called the police. After Bonnie was taken away, I rushed in front of Stefan and hammered him twice. Tears couldn't stop welling up. "Are you crazy? What if it really splashed on you? Wouldn't it hurt you to death?" The fear of what could have happened welled up in my heart, and I was so angry that I wanted to bite a piece of Stefan's flesh to make him remember, but Stefan just gently rubbed the top of my head with a good temper. "I couldn't let a little girl like you get splashed. Besides, I'm okay, aren't I?" I couldn't stop crying, so Stefan had to carry me to the car and take me home. When I got home, my parents were so scared when they heard that I almost had an accident. They held Stefan's hand and kept thanking him. Then they asked me to rest at home for a few days and go to work again after the engagement ceremony. I agreed, but before the engagement ceremony, an uninvited guest knocked on the door of my house. There was no one else at home, so I went to open the door and faced Damon's pale face. He had lost a lot of weight compared to the last time we met. The moment I saw it was him, I was about to close the door. Damon directly put his hand on the door frame. He was clamped hard, but didn't make a sound. Seeing that I really couldn't avoid him, I had to open the door and said coldly, "Damon, what on earth do you want? I'm getting engaged tomorrow. Don't pester me anymore." There were tears in Damon's eyes, and he choked up a bit. I know, Elena, I heard that Bonnie almost hurt you. All of this is because of me. I came to apologize to you, but when I was packing my luggage, I found this." He trembled and took out a medical record book, opened it shakily. "When did we have a child? I never knew about it," mentioning the child that was accidentally lost. My gaze towards Damon became even more sarcastic and cold. "Of course. You didn't know. You even refused to call an ambulance for me, and were afraid that Bonnie would also fall off the cliff by accident. When you left with Bonnie in your arms, that child was already gone." Damon's face turned so pale that it was almost transparent. His tall body swayed, unstable, and his lips kept trembling, as if he wanted to say something, but he could only shed tears and repent. I had no mood to watch his completely useless repentance. "Damon, if there's nothing else, you can leave. I'm getting engaged tomorrow and I don't want you to ruin my mood." Damon's eyes became even redder. He squeezed in front of me in a panic, and even wanted to bend his knees to apologize to me. "Elena, I really know I was wrong. I've already fired Bonnie and I won't have any more contact with her. I'll treat you well. Please don't get engaged to another man, okay?" I had never seen Damon in such a humble state before. I could only take a step back to keep a distance. After looking at him for a while, I sighed. "Damon, if you still don't believe me, when I said I wanted to break up with you, then I'm telling you now that I've already fallen for Stefan. We're getting engaged tomorrow. If you still don't believe it, then I can invite you to our engagement banquet. Of course, I'll have someone keep an eye on you, in case you cause trouble." With that said, I pushed him away and closed the door. I went back to the bedroom, dialed Stefan's number, and after chatting for a while my bad mood disappeared completely. I decided to go to bed early for a good state the next day. The next day I attended the event in my finest attire, and Stefan came to pick me up. The two of us walked into the hotel, socialized, drank, put on rings for each other, and announced our engagement news to everyone. My gaze swept across the whole place and landed on a flustered figure. Leaving, I was lost and thought. Stefan bent down and kissed me. "What are you looking at?" I shook my head. "It's nothing." This secondary account only had Damon and Bonnie as friends, and both of them had posted a new status. I was completely confused, until he pulled me into the Civil Affairs Bureau. He took out our documents as if by magic. He was as familiar with the process of getting a marriage certificate as if he had been married once before. Under his guidance, I was dizzy and got the marriage certificate with him. It was only when I got in the car that I realized what had happened. I held the marriage certificate and examined it carefully, then took a photo and posted it. In the moments I didn't block Damon and Bonnie, they would both see it. The car drove towards an unfamiliar road, and I was a bit curious. "Stefan, where are we going?" Stefan smiled. "To my house. I'll show you the place where you'll live for many years in the future." I nodded and was taken to his house. Instead of letting me walk around and take a look, he directly pulled me into his study. As soon as the door was opened, instead of seeing a wide variety of books, I saw pictures of myself. From being young and inexperienced to being mature, there were even a few photos of me when I was just changing my baby teeth. Stefan had been planning this for a long time, before I could be moved. Stefan kissed me. His long-cherished wish was fulfilled at this moment. I could see the scattered tears at the corners of his eyes. I closed my eyes and let things develop from that day on. We lived together and prepared for the wedding in a hurry. Before the wedding, I still had to leave for my parents' house, so I moved back home on the eve of the wedding. My gossipy former colleague found me, looking very dejected, and told me the news of her unemployment. I asked her what was going on. She said that on the way back on the day of my engagement, Damon was distracted while driving and got into a car accident. He still hasn't woken up until now. The group of shareholders took over the company and carried out a large-scale layoff, which included her. When I learned that Damon hadn't woken up yet, I was silent for a moment. However, I didn't feel sad or heartbroken. I just felt a bit of pity, the kind of pity for a person who was fine suddenly ending up like this. After that, I extended an invitation to my former colleague, asking her to come and work with me. She gladly accepted. She then asked me what I had been busy with recently. I smiled and met Stefan's gaze. As he came to pick me up for the wedding, I'm busy getting married to my true love, I finally. Because the CEO of my company after getting everyone's approval, Stefan often drop and pick me up. After few years we had 2 boys, each taken one of our surname, so in future both of our family line continue, our life is fulfilling and full of joy, end.